Kia ora Year 9s, here is your instructional video on how to make a kōauau. The kōauau that you're going to be making this week is going to use your block of clay that you took home with you, a utensil of some sort, it could also be a teaspoon, and a bowl of water. You'll also be using your hands, and that's it. So out of your lump of clay, you're going to be making one of these small clay kōauau, or small clay flutes. So there are 2 holes at the front, 1 at the back, and then a mouthpiece here. And I'll play it for you so you can hear what it sounds like. So when I play this, I'm blowing air just like you do with a bottle, and you blow it over the top of the mouthpiece. So by the end of the session, you would have made one of these, and then we're going to let it dry overnight. So stay tuned for how to make your clay kōauau. Step 1. Make sure you have all of the things that you need to make your kōauau. Number 1. Your block of air dry clay. This should still be moist, so you should still be able to push on it and it move. You need a bowl of water, and you need a utensil of some sort. It could be a teaspoon or a butter knife. The first thing you're going to do is grab your clay and break it into 2 sections. You're going to break it in half. Now if at any point your clay feels dry, you can just gently add a tiny bit of water and it'll make it more moldable. So step 1 is to mold the clay into 2 little bowls that are exactly the same size. You do not have to be a super duper perfectionist about this, but I know some of you will be. The trick is for it to not be too thick and for it also not to be too thin that it can't hold its own shape. So I'm just going to keep going with this one. So I've now got my 2 semicircles, my 2 little bowls. The next step is to hatch around the top of the bowl and put some water in so that we can then combine the 2 bowls to make a lovely sphere. So you might need to add some water for this part if your clay is drying out slightly. So you're going to get your utensil. See if I can come a bit closer, and you're going to do this crossing sort of thing the whole way around the top of your bowl, and then you go the other way. And the reason we're doing this is because we want to create some grip for the bowls to stick on. Now you're going to do this around the top of both of your little bowls. And I'll just do this one until it's finished, and then I'll show you what the next step is after that. This does not have to be neat. Now I've got both my bowls, and you can see that I've scored around both of the tops of the bowls. So our next step is to put these 2 together. So you firstly want to dip your finger in the water and add it around the top of the bowls. Now don't make it so wet that it's dripping. You want it to still have some sense of like tackiness to it. You're then going to piece your two bowls together. This is probably the trickiest part. And you see how it now looks like a bit of a clamshell? What you can do here is either squeeze, like with your fingers, and pinch it together, but what I find easier is to get your utensil again, wet around the edge, and then score the edges. So what this does, it just kind of like squeezes the clay together. So see here how we're starting to lose the seam. So the seam's still on this side, but we've kind of lost it through here. And eventually you'll have that the whole way around. So keep working at that, crossing it, wetting it, merging it in together, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so you should now have a beautiful sphere. And it'll feel reasonably heavy and it's hollow, which is awesome. So at this point, excuse me, I've just spilt water everywhere. At this point you want to create a flat bottom. Don't push too hard because you don't want to push into the instrument. You want to create a flat point on your instrument, and the best way to do that is just kind of push it on the table and find a spot where it kind of sits properly. And this is where we're going to add the holes to our instrument. So the first one we're going to add is, if I bring this one over, is our mouthpiece. So get your small, for this, if you're at home, you could use like the end of a teaspoon, or we have these smaller utensils at school. So you're just going to push right into the instrument, but not so hard that you go out the other end. And you want to create a hole that's big enough for air to get through it, but not too big that your mouth won't fit for the instrument. And just keep working on that, and it makes it slightly easier if you can make a little point up the top. Next we're going to make the two holes at the front of the instrument, so decide where you want these. If your utensil gets a little clay on it, you might just want to give it a little wipe down with some water. Now these only need to be small because you want your fingers to cover them. And now we're going to move on to the back hole. Just exactly the same again, but you only need one on the back. Now the final step for you guys is to put your initials onto the bottom. You can do that with just using your utensil. So I'm going to do a P and an I. And then all you need to do is let it dry. You could use newspaper. Let it dry overnight. It'll probably take about 2 days to dry. If you're at school, we're going to let it dry in our class boxes. And that is your kōauau. Well done!